Our protagonist never expects to find herself in this situation. When she signed the lease for the second house, she had no idea that one night she'd be there with a man. There were too many eyes watching for them to go to a hotel, but she didn't want to go to his house either. As they sit in the house, the man calls her name, Sejin, and asks if this is really how things are supposed to be. She hesitates, feeling nervous, and admits that she doesn't know if he'll believe her, but it's her first time. He looks at her, surprised, and asks, "Your first time, and it's with me?" Before this moment, Sejin had always thought it would be too dangerous to get involved with him. But here they are. Before she can answer him, he suddenly calls for the filming to stop, telling the crew to cut the scene. The mood shifts. He asks if the energy feels livelier today, as if checking in on the atmosphere. Another man in the room thanks Jatai for the snacks, but Jatai shakes his head and says he wasn't the one who ordered them, they came from Yui, the woman sitting beside him. The other man nods in understanding and congratulates Jatai on his upcoming wedding. Sejin watches all of this, feeling disconnected. In her mind, she thinks about how this should be a moment that makes her happy. But instead, all she can focus on is the fact that Jatai separated from her less than a month ago. In a flashback, Sejin remembers Jatai asking her if she's not planning to marry him. He tells her that she's done well, that they like each other, and her parents like him too, so why not? She asks for some time to think, but Jatai insists he needs an answer today. He says it's not that difficult to get married. She sighs and explains it's not about him, she just doesn't want to get married. He's confused and frustrated, asking why she's acting this way. It makes him anxious. He tells her if that's how she feels, they should stop seeing each other. She agrees. Jatai comes from a well-known family with a family-owned business. They grew up with privilege, so they never understood the struggles she had faced. When Sejin first met his mother, she was welcomed warmly. But later, his mother had a background check done on her, and after that, her attitude shifted completely. Instead of dragging it out or facing more difficult choices, Sejin decides it's better to end things with Jatai. Shin Sejin thinks she wouldn't have come to the party if it weren't for the CEO's request. She's tired of attending VIP fashion shows and charity auctions, but maybe it's a good thing, at least here, her mind stays occupied. She doesn't want to think about the snack truck, or the couple standing side by side in front of it. She's done thinking about that. She walks toward a familiar face, Madame Zhong, who comments on how small the world feels when they meet like this. Sejin smiles, greeting her, and listens as Madame Zhong explains she's here shopping for her daughter's clothes. But the conversation quickly takes a harsh turn. Madame Zhong wonders why Sejin still shows up on TV, suggesting that by now she should have cleared all her mother's debt. She even hints at throwing more money at her, as she once did with Sujin's mother, but adds she's not feeling generous today. Sejin wonders why Madame Zhong would say something so cruel. Her career is better than ever, her popularity soaring. She's worked hard to become a top artist. How did things get to this point? Just then, Madame Zhong asks if she knows that Jatai's mother is at the event. Before Sejin can react, Jatai's mom approaches, commenting on how well she looks. She speaks with concern, apologizing and asking if Sejin is hurt by her son. Sejin listens quietly as Jatai's mother mentions the news of his engagement to Yui. She assures Sejin there's nothing they can do if that's what his heart wants, adding that she didn't even need to dig into it. Madame Zhong filled her in. With a final, sympathetic remark, she tells Sejin to take care of herself and enjoy the party. Our girl reminds herself to stay calm. Jatai is getting married to someone new in less than a month after breaking up with her. It's clear they care about how people perceive them, and soon the whispers will start. People will be talking, wondering if Kim Jatai dumped her. She knows she has to hold it together. If she slips up now, the rumors about her will spiral out of control. As she stands there, she overhears some murmurs about CEO Kang Seung-won. He said earlier he might not be able to attend, but it seems he managed to show up after all. Someone mentions that he's been busy with business in Dubai, but they're excited to finally see him. Another person chimes in, talking about how he turned the failing Su construction company into a success. The young CEO is making waves, and even the chairman of Su Group is proud of him. Sejin thinks to herself that this sudden change in atmosphere must be because of him. She's been hearing people talk about Kang Seung-won for a while now. Just then, Madam Jong points out his arrival. Sujin's curiosity grows as she watches him. He's even more impressive than the rumors suggested. She can't help but wonder why someone like him made such an unexpected offer to her. Sujin's phone rings, and it's her CEO calling. When she picks up, she tells him he's late, and he explains that it took him a while to find a parking spot. She sighs and reminds him that she's only here to make an appearance for his sake. He responds that he's doing this for her own good. Sejin replies that he's been kind to her, and that's the only reason she's putting up with all of this, but warns him that there won't be a next time. He says he understands and suggests they get going. Just then, he spots someone and asks, "Isn't that CEO Kang Seung-won?" "It's been a while." Kang Seung-won responds, saying it's his first time seeing him since their last business trip. Sejin glances over at Jatai's mother and Madam Jong, noticing them watching her, just as she expected. She remembers how they mocked her and her mother earlier, and the feeling still stings. A flashback comes to mind. Before she came to the event, her manager had brought up a proposal. He asked her if she knew the CEO of Su Construction. Sejin said she didn't and wondered if she was supposed to know. Her manager seemed surprised, saying the CEO is so famous he didn't think there was any way she wouldn't know him. Sejin admitted she'd heard of Su Construction, but urged him to get to the point. That's when he told her that the CEO had been contacting him, wanting to have a meal with her. She asked what the CEO wanted, and her manager replied that he just wanted a meal, and mentioned that the CEO would be at today's event. Back in the present, Sejin thinks about how strange it is that a construction CEO she's never even met wants to have a meal with her. She knows what this could really mean, though. The phrase, treating someone to a meal, often implies something more, an offer of benefits in exchange for sexual favors. She can feel the weight of people trying to crush her, trying to bring her down, and she wanted to avoid this meeting as much as possible. Madam Jong and Jatai's mother must have been worried that she'd try something with Kang Seung-won. Sejin thinks to herself, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. She walks over to him and greets him, saying it's a pleasure to meet. Her CEO tries to call her back, but she quickly tells him to pick her up when the party ends, making that her only condition. She then thinks that she'll gladly serve Kang Seung-won tonight, feeling a quiet satisfaction. The host of the event announces that it's time for the last piece of art, a work by artist Kim Jung-won called *Garyong Star. He starts the bidding at 50 million won. Hands go up, and the host calls out higher numbers, 70 million, 100 million. Suddenly, someone raises his hand and offers 1 billion won. The room falls silent as everyone gasps. The host declares that the artwork will be sold to none other than the CEO of Su Construction. Sejin watches Kang Seung-won closely, thinking how he made just one bid, but instantly captured everyone's attention. She wonders if someone like him would actually go along with her plan. She decides to give it 10 seconds, counting silently in her head. But by the time she reaches 10, he hasn't even glanced her way. Reality isn't like a movie, she reminds herself. She knows this better than anyone. Just then, someone taps her on the shoulder, telling her it's time to leave. She agrees and gets up, feeling a bit foolish for expecting anything more. As she turns to go, she's surprised to see Kang Seung-won standing there. He tells her he's come to pick her up, just as she had asked. Sujin's mind races. Did he really come for her? Does he think he has nothing to lose by getting involved with her? Is he serious about the proposition he made? His indifferent expression doesn't give anything away, and she wonders if this is all part of his plan. Her CEO asks if she really set up an appointment with CEO Kang earlier, surprised that they've gotten so close already. Sejin thinks to herself that the situation has embarrassed her, and she doesn't feel like explaining all the details. She simply tells him to go back first. He hesitates and says no, but she apologizes and explains that she has a prior arrangement with the CEO of Su Construction. She reassures him that she'll call him tomorrow. Shin Sejin is one of the top actresses in Korea, and Kang Seung-won is known for turning failing construction companies into a 120% surplus. When they are seen together, the crowd falls silent, surprised by this unexpected pair. Sejin thinks to herself that she'd do anything to see the looks on their faces again. Kang Seung-won tells her it's not here, they should use the elevator instead. He tells the others that he'll contact them tomorrow and suggests they leave. Sejin wonders if this building belongs to his family, as they step into the elevator. Inside, with just the two of them, Kang Seung-won mentions that he's not a patient man and asks how long he'll have to wait. Sejin questions whether she made a rash decision, but it's too late to back out now. Some men move on quickly. Jatai was getting married just a month after their breakup. She presses the button for the floor, and when he calls her name, she simply says they should go to her house. That's how they end up at her second house in Gyeonggi-do. It's a vacation home she goes to when she needs a break from her regular life. She tells him to use the other bathroom, while she uses the one on the other side of the house. He asks if she's always like this. She responds by asking if she's not as good as he expected. She adds that if he doesn't like it, he should quit, it makes no difference to her. He says it's too late for that now, since he's already paid for it and expects to enjoy what he's bought. Sejin asks him what he means, and he says being her wingman came at a high cost. She realizes that he knows her situation and did this on purpose, to get something more from her. He dismisses any further conversation, telling her to go wash up. As she walks away, he comments that even in a bathrobe, she looks prettier than he imagined. Without warning, he forces himself on her. The next morning, Kang Seung-won finds a note from Sejin saying she left early in case he felt uncomfortable, and refused her proposal. He's confused and wonders if he made a proposal in his sleep or if there's something he missed. He recalls his aunt arranging a meeting with a famous actress, and since it was Shin Sejin, he decided to follow along. Usually, there's no reason to mention a proposal right from the start, but as she's talking about it, someone must have suggested something to her. The more he thinks about it, the stranger it seems, especially the words she used. He grabs his phone and makes a call. If someone impersonated him and made some kind of proposal, he knows only one person who would pull something like that. The person on the other line picks up, and he asks, Kang Seung-yoon, where are you? Kang Seung-yoon is kneeling in front of Kang Seung-won, looking confused and asking what is going on. He notices a lot of folders with the names of famous celebrities and sees Sujin's name. Curious, he asks if there's a recorded file and plays it. To his shock, he hears a recording of Seung-yoon impersonating him, asking Sujin's manager if she would like to have a meal with him. He quickly switches off the recording, angry that Seung-yoon has used his name for this dirty trick again. He reminds him that he's warned him before not to do things like this. This isn't the first time Seung-yoon has done something shady using his name. He remembers back in school, when he got caught and scolded by the chairman. Seung-yoon thought he would stop this childish behavior, but clearly, he was wrong. As he thinks about it, he notices that besides Sejin, there are some other women who act strangely around him. They pretend to know him or seem overly cautious, avoiding him even though they have never met. Seung-won tells Seung-yoon that he kept the recordings just in case anyone found out. Seung-yoon responds, saying there's no evidence that he is involved in this. Seung-won replies that if he can't understand what's happening, he still has a long way to go. He pours wine on Seung-yoon, telling him he has known for a long time that he thinks of him as worthless. He questions how someone from a privileged family suddenly starts a private loan business. He doesn't think much of that private loan business, but thanks to it, their family didn't fall apart, and Seung-yoon managed to survive for once. That's why he hasn't gotten caught for doing things like this until now. If Seung-yoon pretends not to know the truth, he needs to understand the situation and learn to live with it. Kang Seung-yoon knows that his family will find out about half of the crimes he has committed by impersonating Seung-won. He tells himself to keep quiet and just move on with his life if he doesn't want the other half to be revealed. He feels embarrassed, thinking about how many people will laugh when they see what he has done. He thinks about how humiliating this is, but he decides not to worry about it today and leaves the office. As he walks away, he thinks he should feel better after confronting Seung-won, but he realizes that he doesn't feel any relief. Meanwhile, Yui walks in and greets everyone, saying they prepared lunchboxes to cheer them up. She also says hello to Sejin, who thinks to herself that it was a snack truck yesterday, and now they have lunchboxes today. Sejin replies that they see each other a lot. She apologizes, saying it was inconsiderate of her to take care of her husband-to-be. Sejin notices Jatai's expression and thinks he doesn't look sorry at all. A few months ago, he told her he wanted her to show off her connections, and it seems like Yui is giving him exactly what he wants. Yui continues, saying that she isn't uncomfortable, and that the vibe on set is nice because she took care of the staff with the lunchboxes. She thanks Yui for the lunchbox, saying it looks delicious. Sejin thinks to herself that she knows that's not what they wanted to hear. She thinks Jatai probably wants her to cry or get angry, but she reminds herself that she still has a job to do. No matter how uncomfortable she feels, she is a professional and good at her work. Sejin remembers Kang Seung-won and realizes she shouldn't be involved with him anymore. She only approached him because of Madame Jong, but now she thinks that a man who makes such suggestions is someone she shouldn't be dealing with at all. They continue shooting, and the manager calls for a cut, thanking everyone for their hard work. Jatai calls Sejin and asks if they can talk for a moment. He mentions that he heard she met his mom at the event yesterday. Sejin replies that she has nothing to say and adds that if she did have something to say, it might seem strange to Yui. Jatai insists it doesn't matter. He tells her his mom said something weird. Just then, the manager steps in and asks everyone to pay attention before they leave. He announces that the CEO of Su Construction is here. Sejin wonders to herself why he has come to the set. One of the men next to Kang Seung-won introduces him to Shin Sejin and Kim Jatai. He says it's nice to meet them. Sejin smiles and replies that it's nice to see him again. She remembers they met at the event yesterday, and now they are running into each other again. As they talk, others nearby start to murmur among themselves. Kang Seung-won then turns to Jatai and says it's nice to meet him too. The man points towards the door and indicates the CEO standing outside. One staff member whispers that Kang Seung-won looks more like a celebrity than an actual celebrity. Another chimes in, mentioning that they heard he runs a construction company. Someone else wonders why the head of a construction company is also an investor. The first staff member replies that he's also the CEO of an investment company and warns everyone to be quiet. Sejin thinks to herself that she didn't know he was involved in the movie business. Where he invests his money is not really her concern. Jatai then asks her what the CEO just said. She apologizes and says that if it's not urgent, they should talk about it later. Her manager checks in and asks if she's okay. Sejin replies that she is fine, but she has a headache. She thinks to herself that she feels dizzy and wonders what to do about last night. Later, Sejin and her manager are in the car. He comments that the CEO is really handsome, saying he looks more like a model than a CEO. He can't believe how good-looking he is. Sejin asks what he means, surprised by his reaction. He seems confused and asks what she's talking about. She reminds him that his name is Kang Seung-won, and it seems like he's never seen him before. He asks if that was really him, saying it's strange that he has the same name as the person he told her about yesterday. He mentions that he heard this guy is also the head of the construction department, but it's odd that there's another guy with the same name in the same industry. Sejin tells him to wait a moment and explains that the man they just met is the CEO of Su Construction. He responds in disbelief, asking if that's true. Sejin then asks if he's not the one who suggested they have a meal together. He replies that the picture he received was of a completely different person. Sejin starts to think about what's happening. She suggests they check their cell phones for more information. She looks at hers but doesn't find anything. She asks him who made the proposal to her, wondering if she has any pictures. He says yes, he has it on his phone. She checks it out and thinks about who this man could be. She realizes that there's enough evidence to show that someone tricked the manager. She wonders what she's done. The guy who offered her a sponsorship was a fake, and the man she met last night is the real deal. She feels confused about what he was thinking when they were being intimate. The manager suddenly asks about the second car, noting that Sassoongs are driving foreign cars these days. Just then, Kang Seung-won calls Sejin, telling her they need to talk. He says he will wait for her at her second house. They meet at her second house, and she tells him that since it's just a second house, there's nothing to drink. She didn't invite him over, so she didn't prepare anything. Sejin starts by saying that she made a mistake. She explains that she received a sponsorship offer, and she thought it was from him, but now she believes it was a case of impersonation, and it's not her fault for not recognizing it. The person in the picture pretended to be him, and he kept sending evidence to her manager to make him believe it was really him. Kang Seung-won listens and says that the person is his cousin. He mentions that his cousin has some bad habits, and it seems like those habits have finally caught up with him. He offered her manager a large amount of money, and in the end, he thinks the manager accepted it because he is in debt. Kang Seung-won adds that if things don't work out with her, they will introduce a newbie. He suggests it might be better for her to change her manager, and he apologizes for not catching this sooner. He says he took care of his cousin so that he wouldn't bother her again. Sejin then asks him why he accepted her sponsorship offer in the first place. He replies that he was just curious about why she would make such a bold suggestion. Sejin thinks to herself, is that really it? Did he just spend the night with her over something so simple? She wonders why they can't just talk this out over the phone. Is he here to check if something went wrong? That must be it. She tells him that what happened yesterday was because of her misunderstanding. She didn't check the facts properly. She says she won't make it a big deal, so if he wants to keep what happened a secret, she can do that. He asks if she's done talking, and she says yes. Then he tells her that he wants to do his best to give her whatever she wants. If she needs anything, he will provide it. Sejin is confused and asks him what he means. He explains that he is making her a sponsorship offer. That night had been intense, and now she feels completely exhausted in the morning. She asks him if he didn't see the note she left saying no. She explains that the energy she put into that useless intimacy left her feeling empty. He replies that she said no to his cousin, but she hasn't received his offer yet, and it will be worth more than just a few pennies. Sejin insists that she said no to him too, there's nothing she wants. She apologizes, but tells him she won't accept his offer. He counters by saying that if she didn't desire anything, they wouldn't be there right now. They wouldn't be facing each other like this. He mentions his stature and background, and even if it's just his name, she needed something. He reminds her that she asked him to pick her up because the ladies were watching. He says there are times when one date sounds more like a joke than a meaningless relationship. Sejin thinks that if her relationship with him ends, it's true that only her reputation will take a hit. She might run into Madame Jong again, which wouldn't be good. He tells her that Madame Jong has already made her offer, and if she refuses, he will have to leave and deny any relationship with her. He doesn't want to do that, so he asks her to think about it. Sejin thinks that sounds nice, but really, there's no way out. She remembers how she impulsively grabbed his hand, and it feels dangerous. As long as she holds on, she won't fall, but if she lets go, she knows she will. He continues by saying if she accepts the offer and they break up later, people will hear that Kang Seung-won from Su Construction got dumped instead of just saying their relationship fizzled out after one date. He asks if that option wouldn't be better for her. Sejin asks him why he would want to create those kinds of rumors. He replies that she is his type. She is surprised and asks if she's supposed to believe that. He thinks she doesn't believe him, and she admits she doesn't really have any faith in what he's saying. He reminds her of last night and asks if she can at least trust that part. He tells her that he knows she doesn't need it, but if she accepts the sponsorship, he will give her a bank card. She quickly says she doesn't need a card, she's not short on money. He acknowledges that but says he doesn't have anything else to offer her. He then asks how much longer he has to wait for her answer. Sejin wonders if he wants her to answer right now. He says there's nothing else to think about, there's only one answer. She realizes that it never even crossed his mind that she might reject him. Although she knows she should not get involved with him, she is sure that if Madame Jong sees her again, her face will crumple. Sejin decides to agree, thinking she will do anything for that. But she adds that she has one condition. Sujin's condition for accepting the sponsorship is that he takes her to an event where Madame Jong will be and treats her like the most precious person in the world in front of her. They agree to write a contract, and she receives the payment in advance. Yesterday, she gets a text from him saying there's an event tomorrow, and he would love to attend with her. Sejin happily agrees. Today is a complete mess. Filming gets delayed because of a cameo actor. Even while she is shooting, the lights explode, causing chaos. The filming that was supposed to end at 3 p.m. goes on past 6 p.m. Sejin is about to call him to let him know she might not make it because of the shoot, but she can't find her cell phone. She must have dropped it when the lights exploded, and it has been missing ever since. She had another cell phone with her and deleted the memory from that one, but now she doesn't even know his number. She can't be the one to break a promise. Sejin walks into the elevator, and just as the doors are about to close, he holds them open and asks why she didn't answer his call. She explains that filming got dragged out, she lost her cell phone, and now she has no way to contact him. She shows him the emergency cell phone she's holding, saying his number isn't saved on it, so she didn't mean to be late. He seems relieved and tells her that they should move quickly since time is running out. Sejin thinks to herself that it feels like he's saying this is the last chance to back out. If she doesn't back down, they will have to spend the night together quietly, but she knows she can't pull away now. Seung-won tells Sejin that there is a publication ceremony for Chairman Kang today. It's a book that celebrates the 50th anniversary of the group's foundation. It's not a huge event, but a lot of people are invited, including Madame Jong and Kim Jae-tae. Sejin wonders if Seung-won knows about her relationship with them. He mentions that unless she follows Madame Jong around, she won't meet her for now. He calls this gathering the smallest collection of useless people, including her. If it were a big event, he says, she would feel burdened anyway. Sejin thinks about whether he is being considerate of her feelings. Chairman Kang asks Seung-won if he has arrived yet. Seung-won apologizes for being late and explains that he has been busy. He feels bad for taking up time from a busy schedule just to attend the book launch of an old man. Chairman Kang tells him he doesn't have to say that and they genuinely congratulate him on the publication of his book. Seung-won agrees, but adds that he didn't come alone today. Sejin greets Chairman Kang and introduces herself. He seems surprised and says, "No way, it's you." She responds that it's an honor for him to recognize her. He replies that he feels honored too, mentioning that his wife is a huge fan of hers. He is sure they will be happy to know she is here and tells her to enjoy herself. Sejin thinks to herself that even though she came with Seung-won, he doesn't ask about their relationship. She wonders if he often brings women to events, and thinks about how much she wants to know every detail about him. Seung-won tells Sejin that people are staring daggers at them. She turns to see Jatai, his mother, and Madam Jong looking their way. It seems they finally notice them. Seung-won says they should go greet some people, and he grabs her hand. As they walk through the crowd, some people greet him, and others tell him that Su Construction has been doing outstanding work. Sejin thinks to herself that she has to resist the urge to run away. She remembers a time when Madam Jong slapped her mother in the face with a bundle of money. It was a moment that left her speechless and embarrassed in front of her friends. Maybe that wasn't enough for Madam Jong. When she didn't want to get her hands dirty, she had someone else hit her mother in the face in front of the school gate. Sejin thinks about how she can do anything when she remembers what happened that day. Madam Jong walks toward them and says, "Long time no see." She just heard that the contract was a success, and she congratulates Seung-won. He says he was lucky. Sejin wonders why he isn't introducing her. Madam Jong continues, saying that it must be a tough job, but it's amazing to see young people pull it off. Sejin notices that even though she keeps looking at him, he doesn't look back at her. Maybe he is on her side. Sejin wonders why she trusted a man she just met for the first time. She thinks about how Madam Jong would do anything to make her life difficult. This foolish arrangement might get her into trouble. She feels like she needs to drink some cold water to clear her mind, so she walks away from the crowd. As she walks, Jatai approaches her and asks why she is there. Sejin thinks to herself that he seems like he has been waiting for her to be alone. She replies that she deserves to be there and adds that she doesn't feel like having this conversation. Jatai asks her why she is with Kang Seung-won. He wants to know if she turned down his proposal because of Seung-won. He asks why she isn't answering. Could it be that she is seeing another guy while she is dating him? Sejin quickly explains that it's not like that. Jatai presses her for more details, asking what it really is. She tells him that she met Seung-won after they broke up, and she thinks to herself that, strictly speaking, they aren't even dating. Jatai seems frustrated and says that they just met, but now she is here. He thinks she should know it isn't easy to be in this situation. By being here with Seung-won, it looks serious, and he warns her that people will talk. He asks if she understands the rumors going around. Sejin shoots back and asks why he didn't bring his bride-to-be to the event. He took her to the set, but he shows up alone to this important occasion. Shouldn't they have said hello in advance unless things are not good between them? Now that she has seen his face like this, she tells him that she hopes this is the last time they talk because they are not together anymore. Jatai asks how she can say that to him. Sejin replies that they broke up, and he has someone he's going to marry now. He wants to know how that happened and why he did that. Sejin reminds him that he is the one who announced his marriage less than a month after they broke up. She has never done anything bad enough for him to resent her, so she tells him to stop. She thinks to herself that even though this is something he did, he looks shocked. He probably didn't expect to hear her say this. Jatai asks if it is real. He says he was going to marry Yui just to show her off, and he wonders if they could go back to the way things were, even now. Sejin tells him not to say terrible things. She insists that the day they broke up, they were done. Then, she walks away from him. In his anger, Jatai breaks the glass of wine he is holding. Jatai's mother walks over and asks if he's okay. She then turns to Sejin and asks why she is doing this to him, and what she is trying to accomplish. Just then, Kang Seung-won walks up to Jatai's mother and notices that her legs are stained with blood. He tells her that it's fortunate there is no injury, and suggests that she should let him know if she still feels uncomfortable. He says they can drop by the hospital if she needs to. Jatai's mother comments that the champagne glass must have been fragile. Sejin thinks to herself that now she understands. Jatai didn't introduce her to Madam Jong from the start because of this drama. Kang Seung-won says he will talk to the person in charge, and tell them to pay special attention to the glasses next time. People nearby start whispering that it seems he really has feelings for Sejin. They didn't know he cared so much. He created such a dramatic situation from the beginning to make sure everyone noticed their relationship. Sejin asks Kang Seung-won if the commotion that just happened will look bad in front of his grandfather. He responds by asking her if she is going to compensate him for the trouble. Sejin thinks to herself if he is seriously asking this. She replies that Jatai is the one who should compensate because he is the one who broke the glass. Kang Seung-won asks what she said. Sejin tries to explain, feeling frustrated and wondering if he is kidding her. Is he saying that it doesn't matter what his grandfather thinks? Then he asks if Jatai wants them to get back together, or if he is mistaken. Sejin asks how he knows. He says he can tell by Jatai's expression, but hopes she isn't swayed by him. He doesn't like the idea of her thinking about Jatai while being with him. Sejin assures him that won't happen. She tells him that if she has lingering feelings, it means she didn't really break up with Jatai. So she asks where they are going now. Kang Seung-won says they are going home. Sejin asks if that means they are going to his house, and he says yes. She thinks to herself that even without flashy colors, he has an overwhelming presence, just like his art. He asks her if she likes it. Sejin admits that she doesn't know much about art, but she feels drawn to this piece. He smiles and says that's all it takes. He adds that this is what makes art special. If she likes it, he will give it to her. Sejin says that's too much. Kang Seung-won tells her that it's not free. He plans to take as much as he can from it, one way or another. He suggests they should start by giving him a reward for kneeling down earlier, and he takes things slowly, leading them to become more intimate. After that, he says that usually he doesn't care about this kind of stuff, but he guesses that is about to change. He really likes this moment with her. She wakes up the next morning and thinks to herself that he still looks good even while he's sleeping. He looks like the leading man in a drama. Maybe it's because his life feels like a drama. She remembers looking into his background a few days ago, and learns some interesting things. In her memory, a girl explains to Sejin that Kang Seung-won is famous in the rich community, not just for his fancy looks, but also for his wild background. He is the grandson of the Soo Group, which is a big, well-known company. His family is also connected to the Unryang Group, which deals with private loans. The story goes that the second son of the Soo Group married the oldest daughter of the Unryang Corporation, and that's how he came into this world. Even though everyone expected him to take over the Soo Group's business, things didn't turn out that way. The Soo Group was sold to Unryang for a low price, and that's how he started the Soo construction business. So, it's clear that CEO Kang Seung-won is set to inherit the business from his mother's side. Interestingly, the companies he works with also belong to the Soo Group. Soo Construction is just like CEO Kang Seung-won. On the surface, it has the Soo Group name, but inside, it operates like the Unryang Group. He is definitely a mix of both worlds, inheriting businesses from both families, which is pretty rare. She thinks about how despite his confusing identity, he is really good at business. He has worked for various companies before joining Soo Construction, and he has been focused on building a luxury apartment brand. At a young age, he became successful by becoming the CEO in the construction industry. He feels like the main character in a hit drama. As he sleeps soundly, all the events from last night seem far away now. She sees a missed call and realizes he hasn't called her in years. She really doesn't want to call him back, but she does it anyway. When he answers, she asks her father what's up. He says that he couldn't reach her yesterday. She thinks to herself that he acts like they just talked a few days ago, and she feels tired of pretending to be friendly. She tells him she fell asleep early. He responds that he enjoyed her recently released movie a lot and notices that her acting has improved. He also mentions that she's shooting new commercials. In her mind, she thinks about how he has never talked about anything meaningful, no matter what he has done. Then, He tells her to be careful because when things go well, rumors can spread. He heard she attended Chairman Kang's publication ceremony, and he thinks there must have been quite a scene. He warns her that people can be really scary with their eyes and words. She asks if that's why he called, and he says it can be a double-edged sword. He brings up the rumor that she's dating CEO Kang. She asks if people told him that too, and he says yes. In her thoughts, she figures that it's not just people talking, it's probably Madame Zhong, who seems to be keeping an eye on her even after more than 20 years. She responds that she is dating him. Her father tells her that CEO Kang is an important person and that any woman could be attracted to him, but she shouldn't be with him. She asks if he means they aren't compatible. He agrees, saying it's not that she isn't good enough, but that he is way out of her league. He reminds her that he is not just an ordinary man. Whenever celebrities and chaebols get involved, it usually doesn't end well. She thinks that he probably just called to say something like this. She can't get angry with him because he tells her it's better to end things as soon as possible. She tells him she will try to be careful, but she has a favor to ask him instead. She asks if he can give her mom a call because it's her birthday in 3 days. In her mind, she thinks that she is begging for a phone call. He replies that he will think about it, but says she should do him a favor too. She then tells him she has a question. He mentions that he saw her movie, and he asks her how it was to play a killer. She replies that it was okay, and he says it was good. She feels relieved and tells him she will call him again before hanging up. After the call, she thinks about how her father didn't even bother to watch her movie, let alone look for it. She feels frustrated that he compliments her without even knowing the truth. In the movie, she wasn't a killer at all. She thinks about how her father sees her mother as an art piece, something beautiful that makes life enjoyable. But she knows that if something better comes along, he can easily throw it away. To him, her mother is just an object for enjoyment, nothing more. She worries that she might end up being like that too. Finally, the shoot is over, and everyone is feeling relieved. The man thanks everyone for their hard work, and they all say it was nice working with him. The film was really tough to shoot, both physically and mentally. The director asks if they know there is an after-party today, and looks at our female lead, asking if she's coming. She thinks to herself that her body still hurts from seeing King Sing-won a few days ago. It would be hard for her to skip the party since she is the female lead, so she tells him she will go. He smiles and says that's great. Everyone else said they would come too, so they should get going. They have a place reserved, and everyone heads out. When they arrive, Sejin walks in, and everyone greets her, saying how cool she is. The director calls her over and tells her to sit down. He thanks her and Jatai for their amazing acting. Sejin responds that she is really thankful. The director insists that he should be the one thanking her because, thanks to her, there have been inquiries about selling the movie rights. Sejin humbly says she didn't do anything. The director tells her she can eat the grilled meat first, and she looks at it, saying it looks delicious. Meanwhile, Jatai thinks to himself that it feels like she orchestrated the whole thing, yet she is still drawing all the attention. He takes a sip of his wine and fills his glass again. The director notices and says that, as expected, Jatai really takes care of the people around him. Jatai replies that his glass was empty too. The director sees Yui walking in, and she says she was just passing by. She heard they were here and came to say hello. People start mumbling and asking what she's doing here again. They mention that she has been on set a lot lately, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. Someone asks if Jatai called her again. The director welcomes Yui and asks her where she was headed that she passed by this place. He says there's nothing around here. Did she come because she missed her fiancé? Yui laughs and asks if she got caught. The director jokingly tells her not to make people who don't have a partner jealous. She asks him if he doesn't have a lover, and he replies that he doesn't have a lover, Jay. Sejin thinks to herself that she guesses Jatai didn't call Yui here. Yui then says hello to Sejin, mentioning that she wanted to talk to her, but didn't really have the chance. She asks if Sejin knows there's a rumor that they look alike. Sejin thinks to herself that, to be precise, Yui is just pretending to look like her in the media. Thanks to that, Yui has come this far, but Sejin has heard that Yui is reaching her limit because of her acting skills. Sejin feels like Yui came all this way just to make things awkward. She guesses Yui is feeling desperate. Jatai calls out to Yui, saying he doesn't think she should be here. He suggests she should eat the meat first. Yui insists that she wasn't wrong to come. Sejin thinks to herself that she doesn't feel like she can stay here much longer. She stands up and says she's going to greet the people at the other table. In her mind, she thinks that they have to take care of their own mess. Yui asks Jatai why he isn't answering her calls. He tells her to stop, but she pushes back, asking why she should. Is he yelling at her? Jatai says they should go outside to talk. Yui wants to know why she should go outside when she didn't do anything wrong. She reminds him that he's the one who messed up. He contacted her first when he liked her and even asked her to marry him. Now, all of a sudden, he wants to break up with her. She wonders if he approached her just because she looks like Shin Sejin, like she's just a substitute because he dumped Sejin. People around them start murmuring, wondering why Yui is making a scene at someone else's after-party. One person comments that a friend who worked with her said she's even worse when she's drunk. The director tells Yui to leave Sejin out of this, but Sejin speaks up. She says she's sure everyone wants to know, so she will tell them. She explains that about a month ago, she and Jatai broke up, and shortly after that, he announced he would marry Yui. Sejin didn't make it obvious because she didn't want to interfere with their shoot, considering how she felt. She was trying to be considerate of the two people about to get married, but they are treating her this way. Sejin brought this up because she thought there might be some crazy misunderstanding later if she didn't come clean. This is supposed to be a nice occasion, and she feels sorry for causing a fuss. She decides to leave first and walks away. In her mind, she thinks about how she doesn't know how people will spread the word. She wishes she had handled it better in a place like this. She isn't sure if her headache is from the alcohol or from everything that just happened. Either way, it feels worse when Yui calls her from behind. Yui tells Sejin that she's going to marry Jatai. Sejin asks if that's true, and Yui says yes. She adds that Sejin shouldn't even answer if Jatai calls her. Sejin replies that she can't handle that. She doesn't even have the energy for it and asks if it's time for this talk. Yui questions if Sejin has nothing to say, acting like whatever she says doesn't matter. Yui has always been compared to Sejin since her debut. At first, it felt like a compliment, but now it just feels like she's a knockoff. No matter what she does, people compare her to Sejin, and it makes her feel like a joke. She gets tired of it and decides to live quietly until she gets a call from Jatai. When he reaches out, it feels amazing because he is a famous actor, and he's a fan of hers. It feels like she's living in a dream, so she suggests they have a meal together. During the meal, Yui mentions that she heard they are filming a movie with Shin Sejin. Jatai asks if that's true, and she asks why they want him to watch her while he's shooting with Sejin. Jatai says he doesn't understand why they want him to do that. He wonders why he can't meet Sejin while filming with the female lead. Yui tries to explain that she thinks Sejin is better than her, so she probably shouldn't have asked about it, but she was just curious. Jatai tells her it's not like that. He sees them as two different people, and says that Shin Sejin and Lee Yui don't look alike at all. His words feel like a relief for her. He isn't comparing her to a goddess or saying she's better, but it feels sweet. However, that fantasy doesn't last long, because she accidentally finds his phone. She sees a text message he sent on the day they broke up after their date. In the message, he tells Sejin that he misses her. Yui feels like the sky is falling. She realizes that when Jatai said they were different, it was a lie. She was introduced to him because she looks like the female lead, Shin Sejin. Yui remembers asking Jatai if he was dating Sejin. He gets defensive and asks if she checked his phone. He wants to know why she's snooping around. He tells her if she can't trust him, then why even bother with marriage? He's done with it all. Yui turns to Sejin and asks what's so different between them. She wants to know why she always has to deal with this treatment. She asks if Sejin understands how she feels. She thinks if she had debuted first, everyone would have called her a knockoff. She believes if it weren't for Sejin, she would have had her own chance. Jatai suddenly comes out and asks Yui if she's out of her mind. She tells him that things are crazy between her and Sejin. She asks why he confessed to her and messed things up like this. She wants to know why he came to her after getting scolded by Sejin. Jatai says she is already regretting meeting him, so she should just be quiet. Sejin tells Jatai that this is not how it happened. Jatai replies that he has it all handled, so she should just chill out. Sejin asks Yui if she is unhappy that she resembles her. If that's how she feels, then she shouldn't have followed her in the first place. Yui responds by saying it wasn't her choice. The agency told her to do it. Sejin points out that for someone who hates it so much, Yui sure tagged along to the hair salon and makeup shop with a determined look on her face. Sejin reminds Yui that even if she didn't want to know about Sejin, she would still become famous in this field. There's no way she won't be recognized. Sejin asks if Yui didn't like it at first. By just following Sejin, she got attention faster than others. In the cutthroat entertainment industry, where hundreds of new faces show up every day, everyone needs their own way to survive. Yui thinks she can thrive by being a parasite. She realizes that after getting some attention, she could have carved out her own path, so she wonders why she keeps whining to Sejin without even trying to change her image. Sejin asks Yui if she really tried to change. Yui insists she did, but Sejin points out that it didn't go well. Sejin tells her that maybe that's all she's capable of and that it's not Sujin's fault. Sejin feels like Yui didn't work hard enough to land where she is. Jatai calls out to Yui, but she keeps going, saying that whatever Jatai says or does is none of her concern. Sejin warns Yui that if she keeps complicating things, she won't just sit there quietly. Jatai asks if she's saying they shouldn't contact each other anymore. People around them start murmuring, wondering if they are witnessing a celebrity showdown. They can't help but comment on how much Yui looks like Sejin. They even say they look even more alike when they stand next to each other. But Yui thinks to herself that it's not true. She feels like she is totally different from someone who is worn out and exhausted. If you're eager for the next chapter, drop a comment expressing your interest in a part 2. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Until next time, ciao.